Well, it's very good to be back with you after quite a break. I have to say, life has not been too quiet on my front, and Elon Musk absolutely guaranteed that over the course of the last few days. Now, as you might just have seen, it's been reported that Elon Musk has gone, apparently, from being one of my most fervent supporters to thinking I'm just not up to the job. What's it all about? Well, it's all about somebody who calls himself Tommy Robinson. He's a campaigner. He campaigns on grooming gangs and many other things. And fine, if he wants to be a campaigner, that's great. But I'm a political leader, and I don't think somebody with a long list of criminal convictions is the kind of person I want to be associated with. Well, Musk took a rather different view, as indeed many Americans do. Many Americans see Tommy Robinson as an absolute hero for free speech. I don't think he's wrong in everything he says, and I do question why he's in prison and being kept in solitary confinement. But I do think that much of what he says is kind of heading towards almost a religious war against the whole of Islam, as opposed to saying there are problems within that religion that we need to deal with. So I wasn't going to budge on that position, and that's why I got the tweet from Musk. But since then, he's retweeted me twice, and who knows, maybe we'll make up. But of bigger and deeper significance than me is he has been really on the attack against the government, on the attack against the Prime Minister, on the attack against Minister Jess Phillips. Why is he doing it? All I can tell you is that our friends in America and around the world, as they've seen over the course of the last 10 days, court transcripts over the mass rapes that took place in many, many Midlands and northern towns and cities, and people are just reading this stuff with absolute horror and disbelief. How on earth could this have happened? And I have to say, much of the reason we're having this debate is actually down to Charlie Peters, GBNews' own reporter, who now says that he now believes that there are at least 50 towns and cities in our country in which these mass rapes were occurring. So that's why Musk has been lashing out, and many others have too. The question is, has he gone over the top? Is he trying to interfere in our politics too much? Is he trying to interfere in the German elections too much by supporting AfD? Or is this just the world we live in, where actually we're so interconnected that we very often influence each other's elections? The other big shock on social media was Mark Zuckerberg. Now, you might have heard that Sinek Clegg, poor old Sinek, well, I say poor old Sinek, he's worth tens of millions now, but Sinek has lost his big job at Meta, and he's been replaced by Dana White, the UFC guy from America, a fervent Trump supporter. And then we get this statement from Mark Zuckerberg today.
Because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more.
Well, I couldn't help laughing because it was Facebook, of course, that censored almost everything in the 2020 election that took place in America. It was him himself who shoveled hundreds of millions of dollars, $400 million, towards the Democrats' campaign. And those of you at home who have often liked posts that I've put up on Facebook over the last few years have found yourselves shut down or suspended. Zuckerberg even went on to say there'll be no longer any third-party moderators. They will just have a sort of a system, a sort of correction system, rather like, interestingly, the same system that Musk has on X. He even said that on Facebook and Instagram, we will be able to debate gender and immigration. Goodness gracious me. Isn't Trump's victory absolutely enormous? So I'm asking you a question of, has Musk got too much power and influence? But actually, equally, is social media now just too powerful? And if it is, what on earth can we do about it? Farage at gbnews.com for your answers. Now, joining me on the panel today is Ranil Jayawardena. Oh, I'm so sorry I got that wrong. No, he's not just Ranil. Good Lord, no. He's now Sir Ranald. Well, of course he is.
Thank you, Nigel.
To the programme. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Congratulations on your K. Very good indeed. Joe Phillips, regular on this show, Paddy Ashdown's former press secretary, unfortunately missed out.
Must have got lost in the post.
Must have got lost in the post.
Must have got lost
Absolutely.
in the post.
Well, two of our regular panellists, and I know ones with very, very strong views on this area. Joe, you are not a fan of Elon Musk,
That's
are
an
you?
understatement. No, I think he's absolutely the embodiment of evil.
Evil?
Yes.
That's a very strong word.
I think he is evil, and I think...
Bringing back free speech is evil.
He's bringing back free speech, you can say, but...
I am.
And I am in favour of free speech, but not when it is making threats against people, when it is inciting people. I mean, we just heard the clip there of Jess Phillips, government minister, who he said should be in prison. He called her a witch. He called her an apologist for rape, genocide. Now, this is a man who is going to be a part of Trump's administration, so a de facto minister, if you like, in the new Trump government, talking about a minister of the Crown in this country. Now, he's entitled to his opinions. I've got opinions about gun laws and, you know...
And you're now free to say them. Not just on X, but even now on Facebook and Instagram. Isn't that a good thing?
But the problem is, Nigel, that what you end up with is untruths and disinformation. Now, there might be many people with views that I disagree with, putting up their opinions, having a sensible or, you know, agreeable disagreement like we do here. But there are also rogue states and other agents using not real people, but bots and algorithms to ferment and produce untruths.
Musk is not a bot.
No, but he's pretty close to being inhuman. And the way he's behaved, I mean, I think it's absolutely marvellous for you, actually, because I think it's done you a huge favour and made reform much more attractive to many people who might have previously voted Tory, who perhaps stayed
Well, that may or may not
behind.
be true. I mean, my position, Joe, on it is I have a certain set of principles.
Yeah.
I don't bend them for anything or anybody.
And I would just say on the Tommy Robinson thing, one of the things that I think Musk and the Americans don't understand is that he was in grave danger of derailing a court case about grooming. I think that's really important.
That is entirely true. And also, for a Republican Party, you talk about borders so much, the fact that he flew in 2013 to JFK Airport on a friend's passport because he himself was denied entry to the country because of his criminal record and then was picked up on the fingerprint machine at JFK. I find it difficult. Ranald, you know, you're a believer in free speech, and free speech does it not allow us to offend each other?
It must, actually, in order that you can have a full and frank debate and come to a rational conclusion at the end of it. And I've had lots of stuff thrown at me in the past, but it's important that people can have their say, and it's equally important people can have a say back. And I think what we've seen in recent times is that too few people of my political persuasion and, dare I say, even of our political persuasion, have not been able to do that. Take the trans issue, for example. There were a huge number of people who wanted to just shut that issue down. They didn't want anyone to debate, discuss, even have a thought about the fact that actually should women have some safe spaces that are protected. And as a result of free speech, including in Parliament, and this is why having free speech in Parliament is so important, we've got change, not only here, but also in the US as well.
Yeah, and let's face it, you know, Donald Trump is changing the way that social media operates. I mean, Nick Clegg would still be there if Donald Trump hadn't won. But interesting, Joe, we were talking earlier, you know, an awful lot of stuff goes around on these sites, TikTok in particular, which is very influential with the young. But you still see a very important role for mainstream media as well, don't you?
Yes, I do. And, I mean, we're going to talk about grooming gangs in a minute. One of the reasons we're talking about it is because of the assiduous work of Andrew Norfolk, who was a Times Northern reporter, who began to uncover what had been going on in those northern towns. And I think, you know, you can have the TikToks, you can have the Metas, you can have all of those things, but you still need truth and facts. And I think what bothers me is that there are many, many people who won't go, Nigel Farage has said that. Let me check it out.
Oh, there was
as we've just said about Tommy Robinson.
Yeah, there was a picture today circulating of me shaking hands with George Soros. A more unlikely pairing I can't possibly think of. But that is the problem. But how do we deal? I do very much take Joe's point that there is a big role for mainstream media. They have
facts.
And they have to a large extent to get things right. They don't always, but they have to. But for a younger generation, Ranel, their lives are on social media, and they don't actually read the newspapers online. They just look at TikTok.
Totally. Social media is by far the most read news source. In fact, you see other mainstream media like Channel 4 dropping off the top 10 now because no one's watching it. They're watching all their news on social media and on, the debates that we're having today in this country and in the US. Actually, it's shaping political discourse. That's a good thing, to allow people to have a say. Keir Starmer wouldn't be getting any pressure on the grooming gang if it wasn't for social media.
So ultimately, does the court of public opinion on social media, despite some of the nonsense that gets said, does it find a sensible ground in the end?
I think that's the whole point of debate, isn't it? That you can find a route through, and the leaders of our country can actually hear it, come to a conclusion based on what they're hearing.
But Ranel, if there's no moderation, once upon a time...
Well, there are community notes.
Community notes, fine, which there are on Wikipedia, to be fair. You can add stuff, amend stuff, edit stuff. But if there is no moderation and there is a tsunami of misinformation and lies that then turns into let's go out and attack this person, whether it's Jess Phillips or the local mosque or whatever it is.
Who moderates the moderator?
Well, yeah, but misinformation is a word that's used by people who don't like the arguments that are being made quite often. That's what I think.
Well, I would take offence at that, actually, because I'm not using it in that thing. It's about people knowing the truth and being able to sort out the facts. There's a difference between opinion and fact. You can have whatever opinion you like, but there are facts. Otherwise, why would you be calling for a public inquiry?
No, and we're going to come to that in a moment. So, does Elon Musk have too much influence?
Absolutely.
Ranel, does Elon Musk? No?
No, he's... As a private citizen, he's entitled to have a view. I think the interesting thing for President Trump is that possible whilst having a role in the administration?
Exactly.
That's something
that post the 20th of January is going to be a very big question, because the role that he's been appointed to, Doge, is to cut $2 trillion of the budget that's spent on the public sector in America. Be good if he succeeded with that, though, wouldn't it?
Well, maybe you could take a leaf out of the DWP's book.
Well, we're going to come to that as well in just a moment.